So I'm Neeraj Murarka, CTO and co-founder of Bluzelle Networks. Started the company in 2014 and moved it to Singapore. I have a background in computer science and mathematics, worked in the video game space for many years in Canada and the United States, and ultimately came into the blockchain space in 2013, and ever since it's been totally exciting working in this industry. I'm reasonably active in politics as a side kind of passion interest, and got into libertarian politics in 2013. And actually that's when I was introduced to someone who talked to me about Bitcoin and said, well, if you're interested in liberty and freedom, you really got to look at this currency. It's a cryptocurrency. It's totally interesting if you're a scientist, and that kind of freedom is what appeals to you. So got into that and ultimately got pulled into several projects. I worked on ZeroBlock, which is a news aggregating app for iOS and Android. So I was one of the early developers there that got acquired by blockchain.info. And then ultimately ended up meeting my co-founder, where we co-founded Bluzelle in Vancouver. Bluzelle was originally started, our thesis was to build remittance corridors to send money from Canada to India. I'm Indo-Canadian, my co-founder is, and we wanted to make it easy for people to send money home without using things like Western Union or wire transfers. So we were building technology on top of Ripple. We built Canada's first payment network using Ripple, actually. So we called that the Bluzelle Gateway, the Canadian Bluzelle Gateway. And since then we've moved on to enterprise projects, like we built a KYC project in Singapore, and our focus, we realized in doing enterprise projects that there was a real need for a database, a decentralized database that would power blockchain decentralized projects. That's a really big missing piece in the whole blockchain space. So Bluzelle right now, we do enterprise projects, but really what we call the core Bluzelle focus is the Bluzelle database. The database that really occupies most of my time and what most of my engineers are working on. The Bluzelle token is really important for the Bluzelle database. It's called the BLZ token, BLZ. And we had a token sale in mid-January of 2018, this year. And it's really important for several reasons. One of the reasons that's more obvious is it's the means for paying for services and earning payment for providing services. So in the Bluzelle network, we have producers or farmers, which provide their resources, renting out parts of their machine to act as nodes on the Bluzelle swarm. And then we have the consumers that are actually storing data onto the Bluzelle network. So the BLZ token is actually used to pay for the services, and then as a farmer providing machines or resources, you earn the token as for remuneration. That's your compensation. So that's the most important, obvious use of it. But the token is also important for several other aspects. If you want to join the network as a farmer, or you can consider a miner, you need to put a stake in. This is to really ensure that you're not doing anything bad. You're not trying to cheat the system or do anything to bring down the network. So it's a staking model that provides some sort of economic penalty for acting bad. So that's vital to the whole network. We also use the token for regulating the prices, just to make sure that supply and demand are matched. So we have consulted with economists to make sure that we're using the right model to ensure that there's some sort of deterministic management of the pricing when you're actually providing services. Kind of what you're going to be earning, but also to make sure that if you're a developer, there's some sort of deterministic idea of how much cost it's going to be to use the Bluzelle network. I've run across some white papers about some other companies that are looking to do a decentralized database. There's a few of them. I don't really think that they've necessarily got along too far, but the biggest competitor that I'll probably mention is BigChainDB. They've been around for a while, and they're building also what's called a decentralized database. I feel that their approach is a little different from ours. I mean, we're kind of taking more of an approach that's, I feel, is less enterprise. We're looking at, not just blockchain developers, indie developers, but anyone really that wants to use a database. I look at Bluzelle as a better database, not for just blockchain apps, but for anyone that needs a database. They get all the benefits of scalability, security, performance, and reliability. BigChainDB, some of the early stuff that they were doing, I felt was more built around consortiums, where you have a consortium of nodes that are all permissioned. And it's a little different from our approach, which is truly a completely trustless environment where anybody can join the network, provide a node, and they can earn tokens, and anybody can join the network and use it as a service. So ours is a very open platform, and I think that's the big differentiating factor that makes us unique. The Lovelace is our first release to the public. It's actually named after Ada Lovelace. And each of our releases is named after a prominent scientist that we've chosen. And what we came out with at the end of April was a beta. The version that you've just mentioned is coming out at the end of June. And that version is going to have smart contract support for Neo. It's going to have support for Ethereum, so you'll be able to write smart contracts in either of those environments and be able to use the Bluzelle database, which is one of the big use cases for the Bluzelle database. We're also going to be having support for Python. So Python developers will be able to write directly to the Bluzelle database, which is a huge value. We're also going to be improving upon the release that we had, the beta version that we had. It was for the hackathon's purposes. We wanted to get something else so that people at the hackathon we had at the end of April would have something. So we're working very hard on the consensus algorithm that we released, and also on the persistence of the data, to ensure that we have a much more robust system to deal with larger data values that are stored in the key value pairs, having that persistence, and being able to deal with use cases of nodes going down, election process breakdowns, things like that. So it's really just a hardening of what we have and the additional support of smart contracts. The key milestones really is having the Bernoulli release after Lovelace. So Lovelace is our first release. The next one's going to be Bernoulli at the end of this year. And Bernoulli is going to give us full read and write support from smart contracts. So for Lovelace, we're really just focusing on read support. By Bernoulli, we're going to have full read and write support. We're also looking to have a much better consensus algorithm in Bernoulli. So right now, for Lovelace, we're using Raft, which is a rather simple consensus algorithm. It doesn't really deal with Sybil attacks. It doesn't deal with Byzantine faults. We want to improve upon that by the end of this year with a new consensus algorithm that's going to resolve those problems, so that when we get to that point, we're really going to be completely robust. And if somebody were to join the network and try to do an denial-of-service attack, or try to fake that they're storing data on our swarm, we'll be able to catch that, and we'll be able to also introduce a concept called karma, so that as a farmer, your karma can go up and down based on your activities. Biggest challenges are really just things on our roadmap that I think a lot of decentralized projects are dealing with. One of them is having a practical consensus algorithm that is fast and cost effective and deals with decentralization effectively. The blockchain is an excellent software or idea or technology that allows us to do things like send Bitcoin or Ethereum from one person to another, but it's obviously saddled with issues like scalability, speed, and cost. Those are problems that still need to be solved, and we need to solve some of those problems. Somebody in this space has to solve it, and we're working actively to do it. And the other one is just payments. I mean, when you're doing database transactions, you can't really charge. We have a model where we charge for the reads and writes, but obviously we can't do payments on a payment network for every read and write. That's just not practical. So we're trying to solve that problem as well. And again, it's another problem that a lot of decentralized services are going to have to contend with. So these are technical challenges we're dealing with. On the other side, we require special talent to work on this at Bluzelle. So, we're working hard to find engineers that we can recruit. We're always looking to recruit smart engineers to join our team. And one of the approaches we've taken is to kind of decentralize development. So our software is open source. It's licensed under AGPL v3 and several other libraries that are very open source friendly. And what we're trying to do is engage the public. Get people in the open source community to come out and build drivers, build integrations, take our code, work with it, help us find bugs, all that stuff. So these are all the challenges that I think that our project is, we're working with and we're dealing with quite effectively.